Welcome, you guys. This is another episode of Mind Your Business, and today we're here with Brock Matthews. So, today I wanted to go over some interesting things that Brock and I have talked about with what he's got going on and the things that he's up to. And I figured that this would be useful for somebody in some way. So, we'll get right to it. So, we're going to start with career and passions. So, Brock, can you tell us about your current full time job and how you balance that with your modeling career?
So my current full-time job is I am a security guard, I guess you can call it that. And so I spend 40 plus hours a week doing that.
Nice.
And it actually is very ideal when it comes to balancing that out with like modeling, the acting, everything else I've got going on outside of there because it gives me a lot of freedom, gives me a lot of peace of mind, which is important.
Right.
But, I I don't mind it. It does help fund the dream aspect of what I'm working on. It does help fund the career. And as much time as I put into it, it doesn't really take away from what I do outside of it, especially when
Right.
it comes to modeling and acting and all my other projects that I'm working on.
Right.
Um, so it gives me the freedom to really be able to put a lot of time and effort, attention, and energy into the things that I want to continue to grow.
Okay. I love that. And so the first thing that came to my mind was, what are your hours like for your job? Is it in line with, where you need to be when you don't want to be at work? Or is it kind of
I would say, okay, so I work the bulk of the day. So I work
okay?
from 2 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., which is the
Gotcha.
whole day for
Yeah.
most people, yeah.
Yeah.
But it still does allow me to focus on the things that I want to work on
Right.
before work or after work. I typically tend to be a night owl anyways.
Yeah.
So the nighttime is when I have my creative time. I'm
Ah,
able to actually, without any of the outside noise or just any sort of distractions, I'm able to kind
that's
of just
nice.
focus on what I want to work on. And then in the morning, I follow through on it. I deliver on top of that. So
Right.
it is actually very comparable with my work schedule.
I
Yeah,
love that.
ironically, it is because the majority of the day I'm working,
Yeah.
but then in those small bits of time before and after, I get a lot of things done.
Right. And so I mean, that's a weird schedule because you get home and of course you want to continue with your day.
Yeah,
And so then you sleep until, 10, 11 o'clock, and then you have only hours until you work again. That's what I'm imagining, right? But you've
yeah.
probably refined it to something more useful than that at this point.
I've made it work for myself.
Yeah.
Plus, I do have Fridays and Saturdays off, which
Oh,
which does help a lot.
yeah.
So I still have a good. I would say those are the best days of the week for me,
Right.
and they allow majority of the thing like the bookings and stuff that I have usually fall on those days.
Right.
But I'm also very flexible. If something comes up during the middle of the week where I have to work, I'm able to take that time off and take care of what I have to take care of.
That makes
But
sense.
but having that Friday and Saturday off every week definitely is huge for me.
Right.
So it
Okay.
is an interesting schedule, but I've learned to make it work for myself.
Right.
And so yeah,
That makes sense.
I've been finding my success even though that schedule hasn't changed for years.
Right. Now, if you could, you would like to substitute modeling for the current job that you have, correct? That's the goal.
Modeling and acting, I would
Modeling
say,
and
would be
acting.
the ideal goals.
Ooh,
But in a weird way, I do love my job. That's the
right.
thing. It's very rare to hear people say, "Oh yeah, I love my 9 to 5 job, whatever."
Right.
But I do, and I know that when the acting and modeling do take off, and I don't have to work this job anymore,
Yeah,
I will visit. I will miss it very much
makes sense.
because I've loved doing it. I've been doing it for a few years now.
Right.
I've I work with a lot of amazing people,
Hmm.
so it does. It would be a bittersweet moment the day that I
Yeah,
do find that I don't have to work it anymore.
right.
It would be bittersweet, man, because I will miss it.
Man, that's the life, when you have a job that you're willing to leave happily and they're willing to see you move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
That's amazing, regardless of what that job may be. Because a lot of people, including myself, I used to see jobs as just whatever I had until the next thing. But if you stop and actually get to enjoy your work, even before the next thing happens, because it could be 5 years later,
Yeah.
that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
It's
I
not the
love that.
most it's not the most glamorous sounding job, but I
Right.
don't care. I love it.
There you go.
It pays really well, and I think the biggest part that I love about it is the peace of mind I have when I leave it.
Right.
And I look forward to going to work sometimes, or not even sometimes, a lot of times,
Yeah.
because I work with a lot of amazing people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
even though it is my 9 to 5, and most people kind of are like,
right.
don't like my 9 to 5. I'm on the other side of the spectrum when it comes to that because I do love it. So
I see. Well, let's transition to the modeling. So, if you could, what would be your ideal client? If you were able to get a call tomorrow saying, Brock, we need you, what would the specifics of that job be that would just fire you up and get you going?
it would probably be the two things that I love doing the most, which is fashion editorial
Ah,
or sporty editorial. I've always loved them. That's
mm,
kind of always been my go-to when it comes to any sort of modeling, is just high fashion
nice.
or sporty.
Right.
I guess it's because I sort of embody both of those traits just personally.
Yeah.
So I just feel like I have a lot more fun, and I feel like it just comes a little bit more natural,
Yeah.
and the end results are always amazing. So
So, something like Nike saying, hey, we're releasing some new clothing.
yes,
We want you to be part of our launch.
yes, that.
Okay.
Or if Calvin Klein was to say, hey,
Right.
model these new t-shirt and underwears, I'd be like, you know what? Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so
But would you take any job where you want to stay within the high fashion, but also utility space?
see, and that's
Right.
always a caveat, because I'm
Yeah.
always like, like I kind of want to stick to my guns, but I am open-minded to exploring the other parts of modeling. And I've
Right.
done pretty much everything throughout my tenure doing it.
Nice.
But again, those two would probably be my favorite and the ones that I feel like I enjoy doing the most.
Yeah.
But again, it does depend on what is being offered and if I can see myself, if I can see it being beneficial mutually for
Let's say they have a
me and the
blank
client.
check and you get to determine.
Well, then
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it doesn't matter
And
for the
so
most part.
now, when people think model, they think in front of a camera standing. Is that what you think modeling is? Or do you see yourself more interactive with the clothing, more showing how it looks on somebody who's wearing it in a day-to-day life, so on and so forth?
I would say prior to me actually knowing what modeling was like, yes, I would say it's just looking good in front of a camera.
Right.
However, I have learned that it is very similar to acting in the sense where you are there to sort of tell a story, whether the consumer sees it or not. The
Right.
model, they go through that and they know
Yeah.
that it's more than just looking good or hitting the right pose. It's
Right.
about selling an image. It's about selling the idea behind whatever the photo shoot is.
Right.
And I always tell people like this, like when you think of, or even when you look at um, fragrance ads, right?
Mhm.
It's very sensual in nature. Fragrance, for the
Yeah.
most part, is a very intimate thing because
Right.
you have to be close enough to somebody to
Just
smell it.
I see.
So the images and the portrayal of what's being shown is very intimate in nature.
Right.
And that is what sells you on the fragrance itself,
Yeah.
because you don't know what it smells like looking at the commercial or what you see in the magazine. You are looking at the idea that is being portrayed, and you say, you know what, that's what I want.
That makes sense.
And modeling is that. You sell the idea, you sell someone's
The
vision,
feeling.
the feeling.
You're selling an emotion.
You're selling an emotion.
And that emotion in one particular instance might be strong and sturdy, thus underwear. Or,
Yeah.
Sleek and sexy, thus a nice tailored suit, or whatever the case may be. But
Yeah.
you're not just putting on clothes
Yeah.
and taking pictures.
It's more
'Cause
than
that's right.
Like,
Because you want big money for this. Because, if somebody's like, why should any model get paid more than the next? The misconception is that it's based on looks,
yeah,
right? But
absolutely.
you're building a brand here.
Absolutely.
And that's why I have you on the show, because I believe you are building a brand. And that modeling brand is not just, oh, I'll be able to pose in whatever you want me to. It has to align with your values.
Absolutely.
Right? So talk to me about an experience you've had where maybe you were approached for something that didn't align with your values and how you handled that, if you've even had such a situation, and what it's like now moving forward and basically trying to really hone in on where your niche is or who your target markets are.
You know, over the years that I've done this, I can't really recall everything that I've declined because it's sort of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, fair.
I know there have been some though that have been offered and I've been approached to. Actually, I think one of the most ones that stand out the most to me, and as funny as it sounds, it is somebody's business, so I don't want to shame them for it. But I
No,
remember
no
I was
worries.
approached for something that involved like toilet seats.
Ah,
And I was like, well, that definitely is not something I want to put my name or my likeness
smart.
behind.
Right.
Not to say that it's not important, not to say that it's not, again, it's somebody's
Right.
business, so I don't want to tear them down for that. But it's just not on par with what I am building.
Right.
And that's fine. We don't have to agree or see eye to eye on everything. I think
Right.
that's the beauty of the market itself. Like
Yeah.
there's so much different things that anybody can really tap into.
Right.
But that one probably stands out the most where I was like, and it was, there was decent money behind it,
Yeah.
but I've never really been one to just sell myself for money in general.
Right. Good.
Because I will do things that pay absolutely very little compared to other opportunities because I love what it is, and
Right.
I would have a lot of fun doing it.
That's
So
nice.
the dollar sign amounts to a certain extent, but I will not do anything for money.
Right.
And so that's one of my core principles, like
Beautiful.
as you mentioned, I'm building my brand. My brand has to remain on par with what I've been doing, right? That's why I've been
Right.
building it.
Right.
But I won't just do anything.
Smart.
So,
Good.
yeah.
And I only bring that up because I know that when I was first starting out the business, I was willing to, if you want to be in front of my camera, I will shoot you. And now there are rules
Yep.
in that, and not rules that say I am too good for something or I don't, necessarily want to be a part of something. Just I don't believe that that would help me and my audience. And that's how I filter it, right? If my audience is people who have come to expect a certain level of candor and effectiveness and messaging and emotions, then that's the bar that I hold. Because at first, I was like, well, I don't want to shoot any porn, but that doesn't mean I can't shoot any nudity because there's very difference, right? And so I had to get really specific and go filter through my audience and what I've been creating, because maybe there is a place for nude photography, nude video, so on and so forth, in a tasteful, artistic manner, or in a series kind of setting where I'm releasing a certain print or calendar or something. And I wanted to keep myself open to that without feeling as though I was somehow misaligned with my values. And
Absolutely.
so really making those clear is something that I did not put enough effort into in the beginning. So it's nice to know that you're there.
I think maybe I can only speak on my experience, but I would probably go on a limb and say when people start off, they're hungry for anything,
Right.
which is not a bad thing.
No.
You should be driven. You should be
Yes.
hungry to want to excel and grow and build your resume, but make sure that you're not doing it at your own expense. Make sure that you do it in the sense where you have a goal, you have a direction that you want to follow, and don't just take anything that's being given because not everything that's given is worth value.
Right.
Especially for if you want to do this for the long haul or you want a lot of longevity. And I would say this isn't just modeling in general, this is just anything in life.
That's right.
Make sure that you are smart about what you take on and what you accept because not everything is worth your time, your energy, and not everything is worth the dollar amount that it comes with.
Seriously. Yeah, because that comes with other things, that you don't have necessarily a plan for. Like I couldn't tell you the amount of times I thought something was just accepting a job or saying no to a job, but then it came with days of feeling bad about myself or days of feeling, making my family's life hell because I wasn't in a good mood. Like it's way much more cost than what you're seemingly just getting monetarily or giving up in time. Like it costs you more to accept certain things, and it's irregardless of industry.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to say it from the standpoint where maybe I have been more privileged where I don't have to take a certain job because I'm not hurting for money like that. So
right.
again, even when I'll put that out there for people who may not be as financially well off as they would like to be, but to not sell yourself just because the dollar sign is there.
Right.
Because I feel like there is a ripple effect that does come with it that
Yes.
most people don't see in the moment.
Yes.
And I've seen some things that dollar sign looked great, and I was like, wow, okay. But then I start reading the job description and details, and I'm like,
Yeah.
the dollar sign sounds great. The job itself doesn't,
Right.
and I won't do that.
That makes sense.
So
I love that.
that would be like a really big word of advice for
Right.
the people out there.
Right. So, of course, you are not just putting all your eggs in one basket. So you've got your main job, which is funding the modeling. And then you also, I saw a video of you doing some speaking, talking head on Instagram. So you are aspiring to do a podcast as well.
Yes.
Talk to me more about that. What's this name of the podcast and what is your goal with that this year?
So the name of the podcast is the Crowns Up Podcast, which is also my trademark slogan, gimmick, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it's about empowerment. It's about empowering others out there. It's about really finding your true power when it comes to who you really are. And by that, I call everybody kings and queens. I say that we're all divine beings because at the end of the day, we're more than just flesh and bones. We're more than just human. And so I've been talking about these type of things for years now. And again, just like how I got started in modeling is kind of how I got this started as well.
Mhm.
People would really love the messages that I put out. People would really love the videos that I put out. And so I was kind of pushed and nudged in the direction of being a content creator at first and talking about, hey, you should make TikToks. You should make reels about these type of things. Well, we love what you're talking about. We love what you stand for.
Right.
Continue to make this. And so I'm taking the TikToks and the reels and turning it into, longer segments with a podcast.
Right.
And so podcasts are everywhere nowadays, and everybody, at least everybody I know, listens to one.
Yeah.
And so there's such a need and a high demand for new podcasts. And
Right.
I love talking about the things that I talk about. I love
Mhm.
the reaction that I get from it from people in general. I think the biggest, the most gratifying result that comes from it is helping somebody.
Yeah.
When I get that comment or message, or someone just happens to let me know, hey, like that video or that topic really helped me, or
That's amazing.
it's really got me out of a rut. I love that. And that's why I want to continue to put that out there, because I feel like everybody should be empowered. And if I'm in a position to do so, then I'm going to do so.
Right. Now, do you plan on monetizing this podcast and making money at some point?
If that could be my career, then
Then
yes,
that's the one?
I would definitely do that.
I see.
As of right now, I just want to go through my progressions and make,
Right.
just not start out by charging people or anything like that to listen to it, but
Right.
to really just, and I don't want to take away from the fact that I love doing it,
There you go. We talked about that. Yeah.
because I love it, and
Mhm.
I've been doing it for free for years, and I want to continue to have that same passion and that same love and happiness that I have for it now.
Right.
But again, though, if that was my career, I would love that too.
Right.
So
I like that.
So I don't mean to cut you
No,
off.
go ahead.
I want to continue doing it and gradually continue to get better at it, and gradually continue to grow. And, if that does lead one day to it being my main source of income, I'm not mad at that.
Right. I like that. And here at Mind Your Business, we're all about setting ourselves up to start how we want to finish. And so if you want to finish monetizing, then we have to start with monetizing in mind. Not money in mind, but monetizing. So offering people value is what you want to do.
Yeah.
And you should get paid for that. However that looks like, whether it just be having a store with a t-shirt that they could buy on your YouTube channel, that's monetizing it, right? You're not asking for anything, but if they want to support you, they can. And so in terms of the podcast, this is a podcast, and that's something that I've been thinking about, is how do I monetize something like this? Because I don't want to charge my guests, and I don't want to have money involved with the people that come onto the show, but I want to somehow create a space where I can be supported by this. And a format that I've seen on YouTube is to see the longer version of this podcast, go join our group and pay our thingy, and you can get the full 2.5 hour interview,
Yeah.
versus the 15-minute one on YouTube. And I think that that's perfect because they offered me value. I thought it was so amazing that I wanted to go chase it and give them my money. And so I want to do something similar where I have, little teasers for people to get, and where, because if I'm putting a lot of time into it, money isn't going to come out of nowhere. So I have to start setting up those structures for me to get paid, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. And so
Absolutely.
that's something that I've been playing with. But I plan on having you a couple times just to keep the viewers checked in, as to what the progress is. So as of right now, you still work for the security company. You love your job. You're balancing that with gigs here and there, modeling. How do you get your modeling gigs, by the way? What is your process?
So I do have an agency which mainly specializes in the acting side of things, acting and voiceover.
We haven't even talked about acting.
We haven't, but
Yeah.
sometimes there will be modeling shoots that come up with them that I'll get. But I've also taken the entrepreneurial side of modeling, and
Yeah.
I'll search for jobs and gigs on my own, or I mean, I'm part of a bunch of different things like what is it, model management,
Yes, model management. I love them.
casting networks,
Yes.
casting frontier. I mean, social media.
Right.
Modeling opportunities just always kind of seem to find its way to me. I don't know if I just attract it or whatnot,
Of
or
course.
if I'm
We
just
believe that.
or I'm just the right group to get modeling gigs, but majority of it I find on my own now.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the things that my first agency that I signed with kind of taught me.
Nice.
They taught all of the models in their agency to really understand the entrepreneurial side of things, to be your own manager, to be your own agent in a sense, how you would pitch yourself to the Calvin Kleins of the world
That's right.
without an agent by your side. Like,
Yeah.
how would you sell yourself? What would you say, hey, or to the right person? How would you pitch yourself to them?
Yeah.
And so I think just because of that was instilled upon me when I first started modeling, that's helped me with getting a lot of the gigs and jobs that I get. It was
That's
just
amazing.
taking it upon myself to do it, because at the end of the day, you have to make it work for yourself. It'd be nice to have the support. It'd be nice to have an agent or somebody that goes out there looking
Right.
for jobs for you.
Right.
But ultimately, that falls back on you.
Well,
You have to show up anyways.
maybe that's a need you could help fill for someone else.
Yeah.
You start an agency. You're like, I know how hard it is to get work.
Yeah.
I'm going to now make it easier. Every contact you have, you say, hey, if I was to refer some jobs to you, would that be cool? And you just start saying, hey, I know someone that needs something, and before you know it, you're the guy to go to if
Yeah.
they need a modeling job.
In a certain sense, I do that right now with
Yeah.
the community of people that we have out here, because I always want people, if they truly want to pursue modeling, then I know a lot of people that I can recommend.
Nice.
I built quite a bit of a network since doing this, and so I already do that.
That's awesome.
I'll set people up with photographers that I've loved working with, or people that I
There you
think
go.
would really specialize in this sort of type of modeling that the model wants to do.
Right.
So in a sense, I do kind of pitch people to just kind of reach out
Yeah.
and just, kind of be the middleman when
Right.
it comes to that.
I could see you. So one thing I love is craft work. So people that learn a skill and develop it over time. And I would love to see you be able to get rewarded for all of that you've built. All those
I
skills.
appreciate that.
Not like in front of the camera till you don't want to be anymore, and you still get to be in the modeling industry because you're talking to the professionals, and then you're getting these guys set up for a thing. So if you were to do an acting thing, because now we have so many directions, and I love that, it's awesome. If you were to do acting, what kind of acting? Because acting is so broad, right? Acting comes in the form of a Huggies commercial. Acting comes in the form of a short film. Acting comes in the form of a documentary, whatever the case may be. So what would be something that sounds fun to you?
The goal is film.
Uh,
So to be on the silver screen, that is the goal.
yeah.
And I mean, I've done several commercials, which I love doing. Like commercials are a lot of fun too. But goal wise, yes, film. That
Yeah.
that is what I want to break into.
Any film like one where you're sitting on a toilet or
you
or we have to we is it more like adventure, action, kind of a romance,
know,
like really?
it's funny you asked that because I've gotten this question asked a lot, and they're
Mhm.
always like, if you could star or you could be in a certain genre, what would it be?
Right.
And for me, I would always go with, well, this is always my answer. Um, Dramas, like romance dramas. I feel like that is just natural to me. I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe it's because at times I can wear my heart on my sleeve and
Yeah.
because I can just emit certain emotion.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that's always kind of been my what I feel like I would really excel in.
Yeah.
And it was told to me before from somebody I was on the set with for a commercial that I did, and they were like, you know what, you'd be the bad boy with the heart of gold, kind of like Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, I never watched that.
It's a great show, but
Wow.
just think of like the typical bad guy, but he's also got his morals intact.
Yeah.
And when they said that to me, I was like, wow, you know what, I could totally see that.
That's cool.
So any sort of like romance with some drama behind it,
Right.
I feel like that would be kind of like my favorite thing to do.
That's fun.
But I mean, of course, I would want to do like some action movies
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Or,
We can set something up, man. I mean, I have a camera.
well, yeah,
We can go on model management, get a model, and we can film a short film. You know, story. I would love that.
that would be cool.
Right?
I would love to see how that would pan out and how that would turn out.
Right,
It
just to-
sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, be able to put some kind of portfolio piece together of what your range is like.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and what you're like on camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Okay. So to wrap up here, I have one more question, and that is, what are some important life lessons you've learned from balancing all of this stuff, and what keeps you motivated to continue to invest in all of it?
Life lessons I've learned. Well, as I mentioned earlier, don't take anything just because there's a dollar sign attached to it.
Right.
Be solid in your principles and what you know your morals and your values are. And everybody's is different, so I'm not going to say do what I do,
Mm-hmm.
but I will say just make sure that you don't sell yourself just because there's money attached to it.
Right.
I would also say one of the things I've learned is to uphold your professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
That is so important. Even if you are a background extra on scene, make sure that you show up and you are very professional to the people who are really offering you a foot into their project.
Right.
At the end of the day, majority of the time you do get paid, so respect that.
Yeah.
Show up
That's
there,
right.
be professional. And I've always prided myself in professionalism in general, even in my days of retail. I was always brought up to be professional, to respect people.
Yeah.
And especially when we talk about business and professionalism, I think is paramount when it comes
Yeah.
to one of the things that you need to have down.
Right.
And people, there's a lot of egos that come with modeling and acting and stuff, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing either. I have an ego, but I keep it intact, and I never let it get the best of me,
Yeah.
and I never let it affect anybody negatively.
Right.
I think the ego is important when it comes to your self-concept overall. Like, if
Yes.
certain times
Yes.
you're feeling yourself, you should.
Yes.
You've worked hard to feel this emotion, to feel
Right.
this feeling that you have now.
Yes.
You should feel it. Just don't do it in at the expense of other people.
That's right.
I don't know if that's one of the principles I've learned, but it's just is a piece of advice that I'm putting out
I
there.
love that.
So yeah, make sure that you keep your ego in check whenever anywhere in general. It doesn't matter if it's modeling or, you're working your regular career, just
Right.
make sure that you don't feel like you are superior to other people, but
Yeah.
also don't feel like you're inferior to other people either. It's finding that middle ground.
That's true. Yeah.
But the thing that keeps me motivated, I would say, is that, you know, I think once you start to accumulate success and it becomes this snowball effect or domino effect, you don't really take your foot off the gas. You kind of keep pushing for more and more. At least that's how I've always been.
Right.
Having a growth mindset, so always finding new ways to be better, to develop your skills, to really take it from point A to point B time after time again is so important because you never want to be complacent. You never want to be stagnant.
Right.
I mean, at least I don't. And I don't assume that anybody who is doing whatever it is that they're doing that they're very passionate about, I don't think they ever want to plateau. I think
Right.
even if you come to that stage where you plateau, you have to find new ways to get out of that. You have to find new ways to continue moving forward. And so for me, I think just because I've found quite a lot of success in what I do, that it just keeps me hungry for more. It keeps me motivated to keep showing up for myself every day.
Yeah.
And because I have a lot of projects that I'm working on and a lot of things that I'm working on, it does help with that. It does help with keeping things interesting, and it helps with keeping things um like tunnel vision, where as far as like where my focus is that
Right.
I don't divert, I don't get sidetracked with
Yeah.
other things because I have a lot on my plate.
Right.
But the plate full of stuff is things that I love doing.
Right.
So I'm eating it and I'm enjoying
You're
it
enjoying
and
it.
I want more. And
That makes
so
so
I
much sense.
continue. That's why I continue, is
Yeah.
because I'm enjoying what I'm putting on my plate. And now I want to get a second. Now I
Right.
want to get a third,
Right.
without any room for dessert in mind, because I'm not yet satisfied with what I'm doing.
Right.
And
I
so
love
that is that's kind of my approach to how I keep moving forward.
I love it. Well, thank you so much again for
Thank
being
you.
here. I appreciate you. And for the viewers, if you learned something, got something from this, please like, share, send it to a friend who could use it. And we'll see you next time. Okay. All done.
That was awesome.
Appreciate you, man.
That was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Appreciate you, man.